Story 1. AITAH for suspecting my wife of cheating over Instagram with her ex. I 35M and wife 35F have been together for 9 years, of which 6 years married. When we first met, I fell in love immediately and knew she was the love of my life, but we only became friends as she was in medical school and not in the right place for a relationship. We hung out almost daily for a couple months, started texting frequently and talking on the phone, then officially stated dating couple months later. 9 years ago, she asked me to drop her at the airport as she was going to visit her best friend 36F and spend time with her for a couple days, and I would pick her up after. During this time at her best friend's house, she would only contact me at random times as she stated there was bad service there and also busy with her friend. We barely FaceTimed but still communicated daily over text. I didn't think too much into this as I know she hasn't seen her best friend in a long time. During this time, she posted a really beautiful picture on FB and I asked her to share it with me as I liked it a lot and wanted to make her profile picture in my phone. When I picked her up from the airport, she was really happy to see me but did not tell me much about her trip as she didn't really want to talk about it. I dropped the subject and moved on. Couple weeks later, when we officially started dating, she saw her pic as my phone screensaver, the same pic she had shared with me from her best friend's house. She was visibly upset and wanted me to change it, but to this I told her I really liked the picture and wanted to keep it. She kept insisting that she doesn't like the photo and don't want me to use it. Eventually, I changed the pic after she told me we could do our own photo shoot that weekend. Couple days before Valentine's Day, we were talking on the phone and I decided to tell her about the plans I had for us to celebrate our first Valentine's together. She started crying and told me she didn't want to do anything that day and she's been lying to me for months. She explained that when we first met, she was in a long-distance relationship with someone and that's who she went to spend time with over Thanksgiving with his family 38M. She said they have been together for years in long distance, and she previously spent the entire summer living with him and his family before medical school. How they argued a lot and didn't think they were right for each other, but she really liked his family and they even discussed marriage. During Thanksgiving, they argued again and she broke things off with him. That's why she only messaged me during random times when he wasn't home. I was heartbroken, hurt, and felt betrayed. I hung up the phone and cried. She tried calling me back a couple times and sent me multiple messages, but I needed my space. Couple days later, we spoke and I decided to move past this as we weren't officially in a relationship at the time, and as I said, I loved her. Eventually, we got married and I presumed she lost all contact with her ex. He lives in Fel and we in Cali. Fast forward to now, couple days ago, while at work I get a text message from my wife telling me that her ex's mother is sick with brain cancer. I was shocked and wondered how she knew that. So I responded, "I'm sorry to hear that," and didn't say anything else. When we both got home from work, she brought up the conversation again and called her mom to tell her about this lady having brain cancer. After she got off the phone, I asked her how did she learn this information. She looked at me hesitantly and said ex's name told her over Instagram. I asked when did they become friends on Instagram and start talking. She said they are not friends. So I asked the question again, how did he tell you this if your profile is private? She said she saw his page tagged in another message of him playing piano. She commented on his playing and he responded to her. She said she apologized to him on how things ended and started catching up. In that he told her about his mom. I was angry and asked her why was she talking with her ex or even commenting on his page. I personally do not contact any of my ex or even comment on their page, much less have them as friends. She said this was unfair and she always had a good relationship with his mother and felt sorry for her. To which I responded, I understand that, but it wasn't the mother that reached out, it was her ex from them talking on Instagram. I asked her about their texting history and she denies anything between them and that this was the first. However, I am suspicious and she refuses to let me see her phone. I told her that this makes me not trust her and I feel insecure about all of this as it reminds me of the same lie around him from when we first met. She said she understands how I feel, but it was just a simple text conversation. I left the room angry. We don't usually hide phones and both have each other's passwords, but never felt any need to check. Since this argument, I feel like she hides her phone at times. Am I overreacting or just paranoid? AITAH for suspecting her of cheating with him and wanting to search her phone? Story 2. AITAH for divorcing my husband because he wants his son in his life? Advice needed. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. About 6 months ago, an aunt of his called him and told him about their son. After a DNA test, my husband is confirmed as the F there. The kid is 5 and we've been together for 4 years, so it's not like he cheated. He agreed to meet his son and they have hit it off well. They have been spending a lot of time together and the mother is happy to let her son connect with his dad. But the problem is, we both agreed to a child-free life. Neither of us wanted kids. He even got a vasectomy. and I got my tubes tied. We had a talk about this, and he says it's his responsibility to take care of his kid, and he says that he hopes I can support him. But I don't want a stepmom's life. This may be cruel of me, but I can't stand children. My husband knew this about me. I don't dare to force my husband to choose me or his kid, but this isn't the life I agreed to. I haven't told my husband yet, but I'm already talking to a lawyer. IDK, I just don't know what to do here. First comment. Nah, this is a really tough situation and I feel for both of you. I think you need to make time. Tell him you need to have a serious and honest discussion about this and schedule the time. Be kind in your wording. He didn't do anything wrong here, and neither did you. Just explain to him that you really can't give the unconditional love and sacrifice that children deserve. Ask him if he has a plan as to what he thinks your relationship will look like now that he knows he is a F there, and go from there. If he decides he wants to be hands-on, have the child weekends and holidays or 50/50 etc. Perhaps it would be best for you two to go your separate ways, and still, neither of you would be an AH in that situation. Story 3. AITAH for keeping the promise I made my kids at the expense of my stepdaughter. I, 43F, have 2 children, Sarah, 17F, and Aiden, 15M. 9 years ago, my late husband passed away in a AITAH car crash. I was devastated. I was afraid for my kids to grow up without a F there, and I was afraid to be alone. Luckily, my family stepped up. My brother-in-law acted as a surrogate F there for my kids. My sister and Bill do not have kids of their own, but were happy to help us out. 5 years ago, I met my now husband, 47M, and his daughter, Elizabeth, 17F, at a friend's housewarming party. I was hesitant to date again, but I took things slow, making sure he was a good man to be around my kids. I discussed my kids' feelings with them along every important milestone and made sure they were comfortable with my husband and stepdaughter. When he proposed and I spoke to my kids about how they felt, only one request: the promise was made. I would make sure that my kids and I had time together, just the 3 of us still. I agreed to take my children out twice a month, just the 3 of us, with exceptions if need be. As my kids remember their F there and Elizabeth's mother was still in her life, we made a rule that neither of us would try to be parents to our step-kids. We are responsible for our bio-kids. This was discussed with all the children together. Our kids are also allowed to choose how they feel about one another, whether or not they wished for a sibling relationship or something else. It's not up for my husband and I to decide. Back to present time, I still regularly take my kids out twice a month for an adventure with the 3 of us. This could be going out to dinner, a movie, the zoo, etc. I also take Elizabeth with me for some things, such as getting our nails done, shopping, volunteering. Sometimes my kids will come along as well. My husband and I are still responsible for our own kids. We parent them differently, but that's what is causing the problems. We are each in charge of grades, party planning, rewards, punishments, special parent-child time, chore lists, curfews, rules. The issue is I am far more active in my kids' lives than my husband is. I regularly celebrate my children, go to all their events, keep on top of their grades. I know where my kids are, I listen to their concerns, and speak about their lives. My husband doesn't do those things for my stepdaughter. I think I underestimated how much this is creating tension between our kids. Elizabeth and Aiden don't interact with one another. Elizabeth and Sarah absolutely despise one another. Sarah and Aiden are best friends. My husband came to me yesterday and said we needed to talk about how Sarah and Aiden, mostly Sarah, treat Elizabeth. He pointed out several instances of exclusionary behavior, such as Sarah driving Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Sarah and Aiden deciding to have the 2 bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally, Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them. Sarah not inviting Elizabeth on her birthday trip to Cedar Point despite them having the same friend group. Sarah spending money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. Aiden refusing to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. Sarah and Aiden only doing things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home or stopping when Elizabeth wants to join. Aiden refusing to cook for Elizabeth. Sarah buying all 3 of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. My husband claimed that I was the cause of this problem by setting the example of excluding Elizabeth with the promise I made to my kids. He demands that I stop the practice and start to treat Elizabeth like my own kid. I said no. As that is not part of our agreement, Elizabeth isn't the one asking me. He isn't willing to step up and act as AF there to my kids. And my children come first. I will always make them feel valued. I'm the only one who ever plans anything for the kids. Since we've bought a house together, he has only planned birthday parties for Elizabeth. Nothing else. He doesn't plan family trips, dinners, celebratory events, none of that. I know he won't put in any effort for my kids as he barely does for his own. When I've brought this up to him in the past, he said it's not my problem and reminds me of our agreement. Oh, and since I didn't add it in, I'm going to speak to both of my kids separately and then together to get to the bottom of their behavior. So AITAH for refusing to break the promise to my kids? First comment. NTA. Sounds like that his daughter is complaining about not getting to do as much as his wife's kids and being excluded because of that. Instead of her husband stepping up and being more active in his daughter's life, he's trying to pass the blame and buck to AITAH and her children. If I was his daughter, I would be a little jealous too, but that's her husband's fault for not taking an interest in his daughter and making special time for her. Stepkids don't always get along, and that's okay as long as they aren't being bullies. So I would probably have a conversation about that, but overall the hubs needs to step up and be a better parent to his kid.